Welcome to another tutorial to learn React from scratch in less than an hour. In this tutorial, you will learn the basics very fast, and you will be able to create applications with React from scratch. Here you will learn to create this application. In fact, this is simply an input and a title, which is basically connecting model, which is this information, with a representation. That's one of the good things that React allow us to do. So yeah, we'll create this simple application and we'll set up our application from scratch using Webpack, scripts, Node.js, and many different things so that you can get started right away. And we'll use React hooks. So stay tuned to see the entire video. But before that, make sure to check my course, which is hitum.com, where you will learn to become a blockchain and a full stack, more like a full stack web developer in 2 weeks. Make sure to check that out. All right, to get started, let's go ahead and create a new project. These are the steps, by the way, that we'll follow. First, we'll create a Webpack configuration. Then we'll set up our React files. Then we'll create the package.json scripts. We'll set up a server, and we'll show how to use state, use effect, and importing files. These are React hooks, some advanced topics. So let's go ahead and create a new project in your text editor. Let's call it Learn React. Now the first thing we'll do is we'll set up some files, some folders. First one is dist, and the next one is source. All right, this is recording. Now open your terminal, your command line, your PowerShell, whatever, and go to that. In fact, let me close this one and go to that folder using cd. Then run npm init-yes. By the way, these are the steps that I'll link in the description so you can follow the exact code and set it up quickly. Next, we'll install yarn globally, npm ig yarn, just like that. We need yarn. It's not necessary, but it allows us to create faster code because it's using multiple processor. It's the same things. It's the same thing as using npm, but faster. So let's go ahead and install all the dependencies. Now, these are all the things we need. First, let's go and execute yarn add dev, then go bubble core. All these, there are many, but all of them are necessary. Polyfill, bubble presets are bubble preset React, bubble. They are necessary for converting our normal JavaScript code into the newest versions, which is ES7 and ES6. Okay, so bubble loader, we need bubble loader. Bubble is simply a tool that converts code from a newer version of JavaScript into something that's compatible with browsers. All right, style loader, we need that to import CSS, also CSS loader. HTML Webpack plugin, this is necessary to refresh our build files from Webpack. Then we need React DOM, Webpack CLI. Now these are the initial ones. Let's wait until this is completed. Now Webpack is also necessary, you need to install it. And React DOM is simply a tool that allows us to connect our React code with the browser, with the HTML files, to connect the DOM, which is the representation of the website. Yeah, so this is the application we'll build. It's simple, but the idea is to see how to set it up and how to use and create Webpack applications. Let's wait until this is finished, which will take a minute. Now that that is completed, let's install the other dependencies. These are not the dev dependencies. As you can see, we're not using the dev flag, we're using add without anything else. And then we install express and body parser. These are necessary for the server we'll create in a moment. Awesome. Now let's set up our Webpack configuration. Let's go ahead and create a webpack.config.js file. And in this file, we'll do a few things. First, let's import our HTML plugin, just like that, equals require HTML Webpack plugin. You just have to follow along and copy this just like it is, because it doesn't make sense. You just have to copy and then you will understand. Then we'll take join. This is selecting the join method from the package path, because we only need the join method. Then we do module.exports equals, and we'll create the entry point. Now Webpack, by the way, is a tool that converts all of our React code into something that is understandable by browsers, and it allows you to use multiple plugins to do that efficiently. Now entry will be an array, and the first thing will be Babel polyfill. That's the way it is. Then comma, and we do join their name source, and that will be app.js, basically the app.js in our source folder. Next, we create the next block, which is output, and that will be an object. We say path, that will be a join their name, that's dist folder, then comma, and we say the file name will be build.js. That's the typical name for the Webpack build files. Next, let me check my notes. Next, we have module, which is an object, and the module contains rules, which is an array of objects. Now each rule is essentially a way of telling Webpack to convert a specific file. So the first thing we need is test. Test is a regex expression, a regular expression, and it's a JS object with that basically all JS files. This icon indicates, this symbol indicates that it ends in .js, essentially all the JS files, JavaScript files. Then we'll say the loader will be Babel loader. Next, we need to exclude the node modules, which is our folder where all the dependencies are installed. We don't want Webpack to go there, basically. Then we say query. Wait, let me see. Yeah, query. That's an object which contains presets. Yep. A presets, it's an array which is Babel / is it preset env and comma at Babel preset React. This is basically the things we need to use for our JavaScript files, all these conversion tools, all these presets. Next, we need another block that will be test, a regular expression, which is .css. We say the loader, in this case it will be different. So first we exclude the Node.js, Node modules, and in this case we'll use the use keyword, and here we have an array which is style loader. It's important that the style goes first and then CSS loader. Awesome. Once we have that configured, we need to create a new block under module, which is comma plugins. This is an array which contains plugins. In this case, we imported the HTML plugin. That plugin is necessary to reload our build files so that Webpack generates new files every time we make changes. Otherwise, it will be the same file and it won't be recognized by the browser. So first, we need to set up the title. Let's say my React application. Next, we need the template. Template is the file that we need to use as the HTML plugin. And then we say their name, source, that will be index EGS. Finally, we need the hash. This is the key part, because by having a hash, all of our index files will be new and will be recognized as new files by the browser, which means all the changes will be refreshed. This is just important. It doesn't make sense, I understand that if you're new to programming with React, but it's just the way it is. You will understand it later. So yeah, that's great. Now let me make this a bit bigger. And by the way, was this visible? All right. go ahead and create a new file called app.js and another file called index.egs. EGS, not the E, inside source. EGS will be an HTML5, which is this basic HTML configuration, and the title, by the way, I'm using Atom, the text editor, and the title will be equals HTML Webpack plugin. This is important, it has to be this way. This will be options title. Next, we need to include a block that says div ID root. This is necessary for React because React will be inserted in that element. This is our EGS file. The EGS is a templating engine for Node.js applications. It's just HTML with variables. Next, our app.js file. Let me check the steps. Yes, we need to create our, let's start by writing React, import React from React. Then we import render, import specifically the render component from React DOM. Now, React in 2020 and 2019 is using hooks, which means all the functions, all the components are functions, just like that. This is a component. Next, we return. We also can have class-based components, but those are outdated, so it's not relevant. And we say the web application has been set up. Finally, we render our app and we say document query selector root. In the root, the div divider that we included earlier, if you remember. So yeah, now we need to include some scripts in our open your package JSON, and we need to include some scripts. In this case, we need watch. This will be webpack -wd. W means watch for changes, update webpack whenever a new change is detected, and the D is development, which is for development purposes, for creating faster builds that are not optimized in size. Then we need start, which will be simply node server.js. Now server.js will be a simple server that sends our files to the browser. That's the whole purpose of this server. So let's go ahead and create that server. Server.js in your root folder. First we import Express, require Express, and body parser. Those are the ones that we installed earlier, if you remember. Const body parser equals require body parser. Next, we need to configure app.use body parser.json. This is to accept JSON files. App.use body parser.url encoded, and we say extended true. This is just some necessary configuration for later on. Right now, okay, we need. Right now, it may not seem obvious, it may not seem necessary, but it is. Then we import require path. Join is simply to combine folders into a way that is understandable by React, essentially. Const app equals express. All right, now the server, let me check my notes, and we need some logger. All right, a logger will be like this. Request, response, next. A logger will simply see what request we're making. We need a let time, which is a time object, and this time object will be a new date. This will tell us which requests are being made, which files people are requesting. And then we need a console log, which will say, well, I'm simply copying all this because it's a bit confusing. So we need request method, which is the method get, post, put, delete, then the URL and the time. We get the hours and the minutes. This is just a template string from JavaScript. You should be familiar with that. Then we next to pass to the next handlers. Finally, we use app.use express.static. that will be the dist folder. This is to send folders, files automatically. Then we do const port, in this case will be 1000, and we listen, app.listen to the port and 000. This is our local network. We need it to be able to see our application from our phone, from our computer, from all the computers that you have connected to the same internet. Request response, and then we say console log, and let's say server listening on localhost. That will be the port that we just imported. Let me make sure it's all there. Awesome. Now let's go ahead and run webpack compile with the script that we used, webpack watch. We go to our project and we run yarn run watch. Let's see if there are any problems. Okay, it looks like it's watching properly all the files, and the build has been completed successfully, which means in our dist folder we have our build.js and our index.html files. Those are the ones that will be sent to the browser. Finally, we open another terminal and we go to our folder, which is learn React, and then we run yarn start. All right, app.list. Okay, I made a mistake. Listen. Run yarn.start. Yarn start, and you see server listening on localhost 8000. Now, if we go to localhost 8000 and we open the console, we'll see that this is not listening. Okay, now because it was stuck, I had to click, because sometimes PowerShell gets stuck and you have to click in order to unstuck it. You have to press some key. All right, you see the web application has been set up. This is coming from React. Now the basic configuration is completed. You can now write React code because everything is set up. So let's go ahead and create another file in our source to create the application that we saw earlier. And first create a components folder inside your source folder. This is very common. And then create another file called input.box.js inside components. Now we need to import React, use state. These are hooks that React created. This is the new way of doing React. Use effect from React. That's all about it. Yeah, we'll create CSS in a moment. Now let's create export default props. This is simply an arrow function that we exported immediately after creating it. And we have a render function, a return value, which in this case will be a div which contains an input type text and a p tag which contains a message showing exactly what you're typing. In this case, your value is, or your input is, and then we use curly brackets. Curly brackets are the way of setting up values from your component into the browser that will be displayed, because the whole point of React is to take data, JavaScript objects, and convert them into something visual that can be updated as soon as you change your data. It's being displayed on your application. That's the point, because that's something very powerful. All right, now let's call it value. Now value is a variable that we'll create right here, const value and set value. This is a hook that allows us, use state, that allows us to simply update the value of this variable, because we cannot simply change this variable, the value of this variable, without any effects. If we try to change it, it won't be displayed because React is not listening to that. You need to use set value, which is a function that we created to update the value of this parameter specifically. So if I say set value 10, that value 10 will be displayed here without the curly brackets. and React will listen, will understand that change and will show it to the user. That's the point of using this function. You can call it however you want. You can say create something and it will have the same effect because it's linked to this value. It's like whatever you execute here goes to this value, and you can name it however you want. Basically, you have total freedom to name them however you want. Now that this is a simple component that we have created, let's go to our app file and let's import that thing. Let's just import input box from components input box. Notice how we don't write .js. We don't need to type it because it's not necessary. When we're talking about JS files, we don't need to do that. So yeah, we're importing the input box. Now we take that here, and inside this app component, which is the initial component, we simply say input box. And whatever code is in here, this code will be shown right here with all the changes, with all the variables. You can have functions inside this function. This is a function, by the way, and you can have a function like a, and then do something with this function and execute it inside it. So yeah, input box. Now let's make this an h1, and let's change this to a welcome message. Wait. Now we have a welcome and an input box. Let's reload our webpack by running watch again. You don't need it, but I want to make sure we are reloading the thing. Also, I'm seeing this, which is unnecessary. All right, reload this server. All right, now let's open the application again on localhost 8000, and you see welcome, the input and the message. Right now there's nothing here, so if we say something, okay, it's not changing because we haven't linked the value of this input to the value of this one, of this parameter. So we use the onChange function. Now events like this in normal JavaScript are lowercase. In normal JavaScript it will be onChange, and it will be a string that executes a function or whatever in normal JavaScript, vanilla JavaScript. But in React you need to use camel case, which means then this word has to be capitalized in order to detect exactly that this is a React function. And this will be executed whenever this input changes. So now if I take the e event and do set value to the e.target.value, this means we take this function and we update it with the value of the input and store it in this value variable. This will be shown here. Essentially, we're updating the value of our input. So yeah, all the changes in here are being shown there. That's awesome. You see how simple it is? And this is very powerful because you can use it for many different things. Now let's take a look at the effect hook. This is a hook, and it's just a special function created by React for using inside functional components. So go ahead and create use effect, and this is the first parameter is a function, and the second parameter is an array of variables that you need to listen to. So if you leave it empty, this will be executed only once when the component loads. So for example, I say console log hi. Now this is a function that executes whenever the page loads. So if I reload the page, I see a hi. Now if I write something inside here, if I say value inside the array, this function will be executed once when it loads and whenever the value changes, this parameter changes. So if I say hi value and I reload it, hi, whenever I change it, you see it is being executed. It is listening to that variable. You see how interesting? And yeah, it simply works. Those are effects, and this is the basic utility, how it's used. So yeah, one last thing, let's make sure to show you how to import CSS. Let's say I want to import our index.css. You do it like this, just import a string inside your JavaScript file, which is very powerful. And then create an index.css. And here you can write your code and it will work perfectly. So let me see if I have it. Okay, let's write a class name. Call it input box. And say, for instance, input box background color red and color white. That's something basic. It's just to show you how it looks like. Now you see the color is red and text is white. You see, we are using CSS inside JavaScript because in our Webpack we created this loader that takes CSS files and runs them through these presets, through these loaders that convert that into something understandable. So yeah, that's it. When it comes to React, you now know how to create functional components, how to render things, how to import things, and simply export components, use state, use effect, use hooks basically, and set up your Webpack configuration. I will leave all this summary in the description so that you can check it out with all the all the steps, step by step. These are 5 steps, and that's all when it comes to React. Hope you learned something, and be sure to check my React full stack course, which is hitun.com. Become a full stack web developer and land your dream job in 2 weeks. This is even if you are not familiar with programming. You can take a look at this and become a full stack web developer in 2 weeks if you do the work, if you work on this full time. So yeah, people are loving it, and make sure to check it out. Hope you learned something, and see you in the next video. Bye.